He was a little bit older than me, but autistic.
Okay.
So like we had the same brain cells.
So he was a little older, but autistic. Therefore,
Therefore, if
he-
I had a little bit more authority in that.
Hello, Valerie.
Hello.
Welcome to episode 4.
Four?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
we've done so many. We don't know in which one we are. Wow, that's awesome. Wait, is this part of the intro now? Hey.
I can't hear it,
Oh my God, something happened with the setup of this thing.
but you
Anyway.
can do what you want, and I'll just trust the process.
You that's what we've been doing so far. It's okay. Okay, so happy birthday, Valerie.
Thanks.
You had your birthday last week.
Yes, I'm
How was it?
old.
No, you're not old. Come on, don't make me feel bad.
No, I think actually 28 is a great age because
28.
yes, because I'm not anxious about 30, but I am a big girl.
You're a big girl.
Yes.
Define a big girl.
You know, like an adult. Like I
Wow, that's bad news for me.
or it just feels like a little, 27 is still closer to 25 than it is to 30. So you're still baby girl. And now I'm big girl.
So now you're closer to 30 than 25. Therefore, you are grown up.
Yes. But not like anxious about 30. Not that I think I will be anxious about 30 because all of my friends have turned 30 and they're still fucked. So
What do you mean?
So I don't feel that bad. Like I see my 30-year-old friends and I'm like, they're fine. So I'll also be fine.
They're fine on the outside.
Well, I know they're not fine, but like in ways that I'm okay with.
In a healthy way, you're not
Exactly.
okay.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of true.
So I'm not worried about 30 at all. So because I have role models.
Wow, you have to be careful with that. If your 30-year-old friends, aka me and all of our other friends, we are your role models.
I
Okay.
didn't say they were good role models. I
Okay.
just say they are role models. Like
Okay.
I can foresee myself in them.
So wait, are you the baby girl from all of your group of friends? Well, not baby girl,
No.
but the smallest.
No, in my friend group from high school, we're all the same age,
Uh,
obviously.
No way, Sherlock.
From university, we're all still around the same age. Like I'm not the oldest. I'm not the youngest. I'm somewhere in the middle. But
Okay.
like everyone is above 20. Like everyone's born in my year or above.
Okay,
But some are born in like October and I'm born in May. So like
okay,
they're all
months.
literally
It's just months.
I don't have that many younger friends.
Last semester or last year, I don't remember. I was hanging out in my residency with some Mexicans who lived there.
Yeah.
They were pretty nice, really great people, but I was 29, they were 22, 23.
Yeah,
I cannot keep up.
no.
At some point I'm like, I've been working all day. I just want to go home and sleep. And they
Yeah.
were just drinking tequila like there's no tomorrow. And you know me, I like tequila, but damn, it was a bit much.
I can't drink as much as them, but I've never been able to drink as much as anyone, so that hasn't been a problem. It's more like I can't relate to them. I don't know. I
Yes.
just feel like they're so small. They haven't lived yet. And I'm sure someone who's 40 would say the same about me.
Yeah.
But I still feel like when you're 22, you're like very idealistic. You haven't left school yet, so you don't know what work is really. And you
True.
don't know, I don't know, like you haven't really been on your own. I feel like school is an institution that supports you. Like, you have to still like buy your own food and whatever, but still you have a structure. Like you go to school, you do class, you come home, you do homework.
You have
That's sort
your
of your
courses, you have your
Yeah.
your schedules, like you
Yeah,
begin
exactly.
semester, then you have your finals.
And you
then
almost don't have
summer.
time to do anything. But once I started working, I was like, I have so much free will. I can do whatever I want. I started 3 dance classes.
Yeah.
I, just do things for no reason that I didn't have the freedom to do when I was in school. And that's when I feel like adult time.
Adult time. Well, I'm glad that I'm an adult as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree that having some free time, free will, and financial independence,
Mm-hmm.
it's so great. And now it's like the point where you have the money, the time, and kind of the energy.
Yeah, I would say there's enough energy. Like both of us are dancers and that is energy. And
That's
we
a lot.
spend a lot of time doing that.
Yeah, and time.
When we're 60, maybe not. Though there
Yeah.
are 60-year-old swing dancers. So
Yeah, true.
maybe.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah. We'll
I
see.
mean, don't forget we're gonna die young.
True. This is true.
That I'm okay with that.
That's fine.
But about your birthday, how was it? Your mom was here.
Mom was
your
here.
boyfriend was
my
here.
boyfriend was here. You guys were here.
We were here. Yeah.
It was actually funny. I found the birthday cards that you guys got me last year and the year before.
Okay.
And the vibe is so different.
Really?
So the first one is like everyone at Studenterhuset signed the card. Like
okay.
there's like 15 signatures on there, and it's like kind of, it's not impersonal, but it's more like happy birthday. Hope you have a great day. The one after that was fewer people, but more people that I liked.
Oh, so you're talking about
like people who signed the card.
Okay, but you're talking when you turn 26, 27, and 28 now?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. 26 was like, I think I just met you guys, kind of. Like, I think it'd been half a year, but still, it was, there were a lot of people. We were at Studenterhuset. It was like, happy birthday, hope you have a great day. The end. 27 was fewer people. I think it was still at Studenterhuset because, like, Alan was on there or something. Like, there were people who, like, I don't see outside of dancing that were still on there, but it did say happy birthday bitch, which was like a little bit more personal.
Yeah.
And but there were fewer people on there, and people that I liked that were like a little closer to me. Then this one was like 7 people. Happy birthday bitch. That's it. Like there was like,
no message at all. Like
no
by
message
the way,
at all.
Happy birthday.
Exactly. And like only people that I would hang out with outside of dancing, like that I have a relationship with.
Yeah.
That's independent from dancing. And I thought it was kind of nice to see the like progress of
Oh,
my
nice.
friends. It's not even to have fewer friends, it's that I've been more picky about like who I hang out with, and I like them more than the 15 people that I originally
not that there's anything against those 15 people.
No, but it's just like quality over quantity has become like much more of a priority.
Yeah.
Which I like.
I gotta say, this tradition of giving cards on your birthday or like a special day, that was a little bit of a cultural shock for me.
Really?
Because we don't do that back in Colombia, and it's like, it's your birthday, here's a piece of paper, right? Like,
so you just give gifts or nothing?
Kind of.
I
mean, usually we hang out like to go to a restaurant or a bar, and you can order whatever, and your friends will cover the check.
Yeah.
And we hang out, we party, there's a gift, maybe not required. But like the card thing, that it was only when I got here, like, okay, thank you, I guess. I mean, it's nice, but I don't know.
I also, it wasn't a cultural shock. I think it's always been a thing for me, but I've never been so like everyone remembers each other's birthday really well here. So people will remind me that it's my birthday more often than I used to get. And I guess my birthday was kind of during the school year, so I would sort of get reminded at school. But the fact that people are like, it is your birthday and we need to celebrate.
No, the fact that we were in Denmark and you have to schedule everything with a month in advance. People get to you a month before, like, so what are we doing for your birthday? Tell me now, because
like,
otherwise
I don't know.
I will schedule something else.
That's actually kind of stressful for me. I've never been one to organize my own birthday.
Yeah, I am the person who hates my own birthday.
Yeah.
So.
But now everyone is pressuring me to do it. So I'm like, okay, I guess.
Okay, we're going to hang out in my house.
Exactly. Like, I can't do anything other than that. There's like way too much effort that goes into even going to a restaurant. You have to like figure out the restaurant and reserve it and house.
But that takes 2 minutes.
But it's way more effort than just being like, come over to my house.
Okay. I prefer the restaurant, but fine. It's your birthday, so.
Is that what you're doing for your birthday?
No, my birthday this year is going to be in France.
Nah, boo.
Yeah, it's going to be during a conference, so I don't have escape from it.
You should, on your birthday, if you're presenting, just present a slideshow of you growing up instead of your own research.
Okay, I don't give a fuck about that conference, to be honest.
Exactly, so you can do whatever you want.
Like, at the end, like, oh, by the way,
this is my life.
I'm going to spend the 10 minutes of questions just explaining to you my life.
Exactly. I think that's it's a birthday present to yourself.
Yeah, I actually need to check when I'm presenting and do the presentation. Like, there's shit to figure out. Yeah, but to be fair, I have 2 deadlines before that, so I'm pretty busy. Yeah.
So you don't care, is what you're saying.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I'm going to do something the week before, and that's going to be it.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Academia is a scam.
Yeah, plus I know what I'm doing, kind of. So
that's also that works to your advantage. I
Yeah,
think.
you can improvise with
Most
style
people at these
and work.
conferences don't know what they're doing. So if you know what you're doing, that's already better than 90% of the people there.
Yeah. Plus, I think my huge advantage is I'm very comfortable presenting.
Yeah,
So
that is that is a
it's
serious
a
advantage.
huge advantage.
At academic conferences, it's a bunch of nerds who don't want to talk to each other or presenting.
Yep.
And it shows.
Yes. And
Whereas
even
if you know how to present and like presenting, that is good.
Yes.
That puts you way above everyone else who like hates that they're there.
and even if what you're presenting is not that spectacular, if you do it right, it's
Exactly.
gonna be good. I've seen so many presentations that the topic is freaking amazing and the presentation is just terrible.
I know, it's
terrible
horrible.
garbage. They
Yeah.
butcher it completely and you're like, why? You are presenting the most interesting thing in these conferences and I just want to kill myself.
Yeah, and they also want to kill themselves, and it's contagious. It just, no one likes, if you don't like presenting, you're not going to be good at it.
I think when you hear a bad presentation, either goes like, okay, this person was a bit nervous and the presentation wasn't good. Fair.
Yeah.
Or you hear someone and you cannot picture that person being happy. When the presenter is just like soulless, like there's no happiness in his eyes. We don't know what happened 5 or 20 years ago.
If they're doing a PhD, that's entirely possible.
Probably, but PhDs are relatively young.
True.
So
maybe they're doing their PhD and they're old. Maybe they never finished they've been doing their PhD for 30 years.
Yeah, maybe they're doing it in Germany.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Perhaps.
Infinite funding.
Yes. But coming back to your birthday.
Oh, yeah.
We got you a gift.
You got me a gift. I got an air fryer.
Yeah.
That's the best thing ever. First of all, you can put anything in it.
Anything.
Anything.
Okay.
Anything you want to cook, you could put in an air fryer. I'm so convinced.
What have you done on it?
I've made potatoes, Brussels sprouts, fish, pancakes.
Wow.
What else? Yeah, I've used it like 2 or 3 times a day since you got it. It was my birthday, 3 days ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've used it like twice a day.
6 times.
It's amazing.
Okay.
I'm having so much fun with it. I put a block of cheese in there just to see what would happen.
I love your scientific curiosity.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do next. I'm kind of considering, because I don't think you can, that's not true. You can make pasta in the, I'm assuming anything you can make in the oven, you can make in an air fryer.
Wait, okay, but you're just hanging it or like?
Yeah.
So you haven't checked any tutorials or any recipes especially for?
No,
okay.
I go on vibes.
Okay.
So like the fish, for example.
That's very you.
Yeah. Well, I have a vague idea of what the temperature needs to, like, I know when you roast potatoes, it has to be pretty hot. So, and the highest it goes is 200 Celsius. So I'll put it on 200 and then be like, I don't know, I'll put this in for 10 minutes and see what happens. And then normally it's fine. I feel like it's actually quite difficult to overshoot, like, make it so long or like overshoot the time so much that it burns.
Okay.
Like you actually have quite a lot of leeway.
It's foolproof.
Yeah, basically.
Kind of.
You can undercook it, like if you don't put enough. But I think if you put like 10 minutes on 200, cooks most things. I'm pretty convinced.
You're pretty convinced. You're talking like if this was a religion.
Yes, it should be. All hail the air fryer.
All hail the air fryer.
Like there's certain things that you need, like if it's, I don't know, if you're cooking something small like spinach, which I haven't tried, but I might. You might put it on lower than 200. You put it on like 170, 150, and then see what happens. Or fish, like I don't want to put it on 200 because that's really hot. So I put I think I did it on 180 or something.
Do you think you can bake stuff like bake bread?
I'm so so the way that it structured, which everyone who has seen an air fryer would know this, but you have like a bucket.
Yeah.
And in the bucket, there's sort of a layer on the bottom, like a grill on the bottom.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure if you took out that grill and filled the whole thing with like cake batter, you could just put the thing, like the bucket in by itself and bake a cake in the bucket.
Oh, okay.
Like you wouldn't even need a baking sheet. You just bake like a bucket shaped
That
cake.
sounds like a labor's cleanup, maybe.
No, because once the cake is baked, you take the whole, like it doesn't really stick. So you take the whole, it's like a little bit of, crumb stuff on the edge.
Okay.
But it's not that bad. I also am pretty sure you could put the drawer thing in the dishwasher. So if I really wanted to, I could. I haven't.
I really want you to try it and give me air fryer cake.
I might. I have all the ingredients now, so I might actually
There
do
you
it.
go. Little
Yeah,
project.
anyway, you will get like different tidbits of air fryer things from me that may or may not have worked. But
we'll get an update.
Yeah, I want to do an egg. See what happens.
Like a boiled egg?
Well, yeah, like just put an egg in there and see, like, I don't know, put it on like...
take an egg from the fridge to the air fryer, see what happens.
Yeah.
Do you think it could explode? Like, you don't put eggs on a microwave? I don't know. I've never had a microwave.
You can put eggs in the microwave. When I was growing up, we had these little egg cups that, in theory, you could put an egg in it, put it in the microwave for 30 seconds, and it would cook.
Okay.
That was true, except that it always exploded. So, like, yes, it cooked, but there was egg everywhere. If you put it in an oven, I think the fact that it's warm, like, okay, it doesn't actually warm up that much slower, but it's not a microwave in that it's being like bombarded with heat. It's like an oven.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit slower, I think. Like, just the way that the heat permeates the egg, I think, is different.
Yes, convection, not radiation.
Yeah. So I feel like it wouldn't explode.
Well, you can
I'm going to try. I have an air fryer now. I can do whatever I want. Also, I find out it has a dehydrating option, which is amazing because...
But you can dehydrate mushrooms?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. So many options. I have... The main downside of it is that it's small. So if I'm doing mushrooms, I'll have to do multiple rounds because you can only do it. But it is still... it's 10 liters. So I could make a 10-liter cake.
That's a lot of cake.
Why? Are you complaining?
No. I'm just eager to try it.
Yes, it'll be air fryer cake.
I think now you're an adult because you have an air fryer.
I know. I feel like it's the first real adult thing that I've actually wanted.
Okay.
Because, I mean, first of all, I thought air fryers were kind of a scam. When I saw it, there was like a big hype around air fryers. And I was like, how good could it be? And then I was in Guatemala and someone had an air fryer and they cooked a potato in 5 minutes. And I was like, wow, sold. And ever since then... I've wanted an air fryer, which is also funny because I told my cousin, she lives in Amsterdam, and she told her partner who is Dutch, and he went, I thought only Dutch people had air fryers. And I was like, why would you think that?
What the hell?
Like, they're not like a country-specific item.
And also, were they developed in
No, I'm pretty sure they're American.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. It seems like an American thing.
It totally sounds American.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we could figure it out, but we're too lazy to Google it.
Too lazy to Google it.
That's
but
okay.
It's worldwide. Everyone knows what an air fryer is.
An air fryer.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I haven't really wanted anything sort of adult before.
Yeah, no, but it's true. All of my adult friends in Colombia, they're like, dude, I have an air fryer and now I can have chicken nuggets whenever I want.
Yeah, which is a very non-adult thing to say. But
adult and non-adult, right?
Yeah.
You have chicken nuggets, but you have your air fryer.
Air fryer, exactly.
There you go.
But adult things are like wanting a car. I've never wanted a car. Or like a golf set. I don't know.
A golf set?
Yeah, like adults go golfing.
That's a white male millionaire.
Rich, yeah. Seems adult. I don't know. What else is adult? Like a dog.
I do want a dog.
That's pretty adult.
Yeah. I want to have a corgi, and his name is going to be Muffin. With his little legs.
That's just so cute.
Picture him running in a park in Copenhagen.
His little butt.
His little butt. His big butt.
Yeah, that's adult. Wanting a dog. I mean, obviously wanting a dog as a kid is also like the kids want dogs too, but like truly wanting to own a dog and like take care of it.
Take
that's
care
adult.
of him, taking him to the vet with the marvelous veterinarian.
Exactly. That's adult. So for me, it's an air fryer.
Okay.
And I don't have to take care of her. She takes care of herself.
You just have to clean it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a pretty good thing to have.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Being able to cook is a marvelous thing.
It truly is.
That you have to know to do.
Yeah.
And if it makes it easier, well, why not?
Exactly. And like I already like cooking. I didn't need an air fryer in order to cook. And I'm also I have a pretty strong opinion that the fewer things there are in the kitchen, the better. Like you don't need like a designated egg slicer or a designated, I don't know, cherry de-stoner thing. Like those kind of things kind of piss me off because I'm like, you could just cut it in half.
Yeah, you can
use a knife. There's already something for that. With the air fryer, you could argue the oven does the same thing, but an air fryer is more energy efficient. It does it faster, and it's smaller. So I think all houses from now on should have an air fryer built in instead of an oven.
Instead of an oven.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do in an oven that you can't do in an air fryer.
Well, it's a matter of volume, right?
Yeah, but if you get a big air fryer, like if you just replace whatever the oven, like whatever space
just get
the
a
oven,
gigantic air fryer.
Exactly.
You're taking away the advantage that it is small.
Yeah, but like if you get something that's highly insulated and you put it
an oven.
No, an oven. First of all, the convection is not that powerful, so you can
just have a bigger fan.
Or that's an air fryer.
Come on.
Or you could have two side by side air fryers.
I think it depends on who is using it. Because if I'm myself, and I cooking dinner for myself, yes, the air fryer wins.
Yeah.
But if I'm a family of 4 or 5 people, and we're cooking lasagnas for everyone, and you're just gonna.
I also want to try air fryer lasagna, where you just put the lasagna directly in the bucket and you layer it. You can make 10 liters of lasagna. That's a lot of lasagna.
When did we become a cooking podcast?
We're an everything podcast.
Yes, shenanigans goes.
I'm just saying, I think there are some households that could benefit instead of having an oven to have an air fryer.
I agree.
Especially those single person in Copenhagen. There's a lot of single person flats. Like my flat previously.
Yes.
It didn't have an oven because ovens are too big. But if you replace one little section of drawer or cupboard with an air fryer, then I would have an oven. And I think that would actually really improve the place.
Yeah.
Over just having a stove, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I've been looking at places because I will need to move by the end of the year and I don't know what to do. So I was just looking at places. And some of them, the small ones, small ones that are less than 10,000 kroners and it's your own apartment, some of them, they don't have an oven.
No.
And I hate it.
Yeah.
But now I could just buy an air fryer.
You could just buy an air fryer. Exactly. Maybe. It's the poor person's oven.
Thank you. Okay, but I think it's fair to say that you had a good birthday.
I had a great birthday. And I have an air fryer. I also have a solar-powered hat.
Oh, yes, you have a solar... Okay, describe the hat. I was so blown away when I saw that. I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
And when you opened it, I was like, what the hell is this? Is this a gimmick? Or this is actually useful? Okay, tell us what it is.
The thing is, I haven't... Okay, I'll tell you what it is. It's a sun hat. So, it's a hat with a very wide brim. And on...
Very wide.
On the brim, there are solar panels. So it's about, I don't know, 40 centimeters in diameter?
Maybe more.
50? I don't know. It's quite large. It's not huge, but it's large.
Yes.
And at the back, there's a little thing you could plug in your phone, and then you could charge while you're walking outside. And it's also waterproof, so it's a rain hat as well.
It's a rain hat?
And a sun thing. So the only time I've used it once, and I went on a walk. It was overcast. Yeah, I went the day after my birthday. We went to...
Okay, was it sunny? No.
No. It was overcast, but it didn't increase the percentage on my phone, but my phone also didn't decrease. So it was just
Where are you using your phone?
I was kind of using my phone to navigate.
Okay.
I started off at 47. At some point it was at 51, and then I started using it more, and I went back to 47. But I didn't lose charge on that hike.
So do you see yourself using this I don't know, walking through Spain on a vacation?
Possibly. I want to see how powerful it is when the sun's actually out because it hasn't been that sunny since I got it. So I'm curious because it did actually work okay when there was no sun, basically. Yeah. I wouldn't consider it a time when you would use a solar panel.
But actually, that's very impressive. We're at a very high latitude.
Yeah.
And there was not sunny.
No.
And the area, I mean, it looks like a big hat, but in terms of
not
area,
that big, yeah.
for a solar panel, that's not even a square meter, not even half a square meter.
Exactly.
So that is, I'm surprised that even if it's just not for charging your phone, but to not discharge your phone.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good.
No, I was quite impressed, but I'm going to see if it gets significantly better with the sun out.
Cool.
Or what the margin is of improvement if the sun is fully out. But I haven't been around the sun in a while.
Yeah. That brings me to my weekend. I did something this weekend.
What did you do this weekend?
So on Sunday we went to the aerials workshop.
Yes.
We were doing aerials in...
backflips.
Yes, backflips.
Yes.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
And then I had to go to Ama to do my windsurfing. It was awesome, but by the time I got there, I was wet because it was raining, fine. I just changed into my wetsuit, went into my windsurf class. Awesome. It was very windy. I was just planing in and out. It was freaking amazing. I loved it. I love it. The thing is, usually when I finish the class, I change, I hang out in the windsurfing school, I have a beer, I have a hot dog, then I go home. I didn't feel like doing that this time because it was raining.
Yep.
First of all, there was no hot dogs. We were having cake, which great. I had cake. So I was on my wetsuit having cake, getting some well-needed carbs after doing exercise. And then I was like, I have to change and take my bike and then take the S train to go home. I'm just not going to do that. I'm on a wetsuit and it's raining a lot. So I had a full use of my free will. I biked on my wetsuit and then I just head on the train.
We love it.
People were looking at me a little weird, little concerned.
Yeah, no shit.
People were like, well, it's raining, but it's not raining that much. And
they were like, he's an immigrant. He doesn't know what he's doing anyway.
I think when I was biking, it was fine. But when I got to the station, like the central station, I saw myself in a reflection. And I did look a little weird.
Kind of weird.
Also, like I was only wearing my glasses. Other than that, even my shoes were the shoes for the windsurfing, not even my sneakers. And
yeah, you might have looked a little crazy.
A little very crazy. Everyone was with their rain jackets, so it was like you know puffy jackets, and I was with something skin tight, and in the reflection I could see like the outline of my butt. It was.
You know what? Work it, girl.
I don't give a damn. It was fine.
They're never gonna see you again.
And then the best part is I got home and I changed in the shower with hot water.
Ideal.
And I usually have to change in Ama where it's like windy and cold and yeah.
You should do that every day or every time you go.
Know. If it's sunny and actually warm, I don't want to bike with a wetsuit.
Yeah, that's fair. It'll be very warm.
Yeah, but it was interesting.
Good use of free will.
Yes. Also,
I respect it.
Bucket list of things to do with the wetsuit.
Do you have a bucket list? Of things?
Now I do.
Is there anything else?
I don't know. Things will come to mind. I'll tell you.
Okay.
It's been 27 minutes.
Longest intro ever. We had important things to talk about.
Yes. Tell us what is the topic for today.
The topic for today is climate anxiety.
Woo!
Are you anxious?
Am I anxious
about climate change?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Not that much.
Why not?
Because I'm gonna die soon.
What if, okay, but climate change is already happening. There are still days where you suffer a little bit. Maybe not in Denmark, but, you know, when you go home, you might suffer a little bit.
I'm okay.
Are you worried? Okay, we're getting into some, like, deeper topics now. Do you want children?
Wow.
And do you think that they're going to suffer? Are you worried that they're going to suffer if you do have children?
Okay, first, let me tell you, like, my greatest anxiety that I currently have on my actual life today, not my future. And it has to do with the fact that after I moved from Colombia to Denmark, like this whole world of like possibilities open. Like now I have money, I'm in a developed country, I can do a bunch of stuff. And if that would have been in the 90s, like the world would have been mine and I could just do whatever and succeed on whatever I wanted. Mm-hmm. But now every time I take a flight, or I want to buy something fancy or expensive or something that I don't need, I feel guilt. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't need this, but I want it. Do I actually buy it? Or I can take a train for 7 hours, or I can just fly. Do I take the train? Yeah. I don't want to, but maybe. Damn it. My friends are taking the train. But I think it's
good that you're thinking like that because not everyone is. I think it's the way you're supposed to think now because you're in a scenario where you actually do have limitations on what you're supposed to be emitting and how you're supposed to be consuming.
I agree. But
some people don't think like
some people don't. Also, on what I eat.
Yep.
And had this happened 30 years ago, back in the 90s, I wouldn't have given a fuck. I'm like...
You would have been part of the problem.
I'm out of Colombia, bitches. Yeah, now I can live my life polluting how much I want. And now I'm like, damn it, I have to be sustainable. And I have to be like, okay, how do you recycle here in Denmark? Okay, here it is. Like... it's not a huge...
It's playing life on a little bit more difficult level.
No.
Yeah.
Nothing is more difficult. If you move from South America to here, you're not increasing the level of difficulty.
It's just like temporally, the level of difficulty now is higher than it was in the 1990s. There are
mini games of things that you have to think about. Yeah. Like, okay, how much are you emitting? What are you eating? What are you doing with your garbage?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's very fair to do that. And it's fine that people... maybe like people like me are doing it, fine. But it's like the most anxiety. So now that you see that, I don't know, the average summer is a little hotter, I'm like, well, doesn't make a lot of difference to me. Like 5-6 years ago, I didn't have summers.
I hate.
And now I have summers that instead of 30 or 31, like, no, okay. But the real problem is when you see the news and it's like, there was a flooding somewhere, or there is a drought somewhere, or so many species are extinct, and I was like, damn.
But that also, I have such like a annoyance with the media because, I mean, their business model is making you think like that.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the time, not that, okay, some of the things they actually report are inaccurate. Like there was this article maybe like a year ago where they reported that the Gulf Stream could reverse in 20 years or something.
Yeah.
Which, when you actually read the article, there was just a probability. They'd done a model. The probability it would reverse in 20 years wasn't 0. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen. But the way that the title was written was, we're all fucked. The Gulf Stream is going to reverse and Europe's going to fall into a deep freeze.
Yeah, that's the current problem of media, right?
Which I hate because I think I'm also not that anxious about climate change, but I work in climate change and I see a lot of this stuff sort of firsthand, or like I see a lot of the models firsthand, or I talk to the people doing decision making firsthand. So for me, I get a way more nuanced picture than someone who just reads the news.
Yeah.
And that pisses me off that like it shouldn't be that you have to be working in climate or close to the decision makers in order to know that all of this is like, it's not as bad as you think it is. It's just the media is making it worse than it is, or making it perceive it as worse than it is if all you're consuming is just articles or like headlines even of these articles. And that kind of, it really pisses me off because I get a lot of my friends who will send me an article and be like, is this real? Like, are we going to die? And I'm like, no, like it's never can there be an article that is true that's like, this is the end of the world. The end of the world isn't going to happen like that. Yeah. It's going to slowly come, which I'm a little bit anxious about. But the fact that you read it on The Guardian or BBC just makes you more anxious than you should be. And it also, I think anxiety tends to paralyze people. Like I have a lot of friends who don't read the news anymore, which I think is harmful because you should still read the news.
You should have an idea of what's going on.
Exactly. Or you should still, or they feel a little bit, they're not anxious, they're just hopeless. And so they are reverting back into it doesn't matter anymore.
Doesn't matter, right? I'm going to eat whatever, fly how much I want. And
which pisses me off. Like it's just a result of a news article saying the Gulf Stream is reversing in 20 years. So
yeah, I agree. But that's more like a media problem, right?
Yeah.
They feed you things that will make you feel shit, and then you are like, okay, but whatever I do is meaningless. I'll just change from plastic straws to paper straws, and my life is gonna be shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what can I do?
Exactly. And so now I have to drink out of a soggy straw instead of a nice plastic one.
But now you're depressed.
Which, the role of the media always in climate change has been such, like, I think climate communicators have the hardest job ever.
I think it's a really hard job.
Yeah. And I respect and admire the ones who can do it well.
Yeah.
The ones who can't do it well piss me off. Just say what's, like, don't try and get clicks. I know that's how it works.
Yeah. But that's unfortunately the problem.
Yeah, when you have doomsday articles, the one about the Gulf Stream, I got so many people sending to me, and there's been other articles about climate change that have been way more nuanced and reasonable, but that's the one that got attention.
The one that says the world is ending.
Exactly. That's the one that my mom read when she doesn't really read this kind of stuff. That's it just it pisses me off. But anyway, I digress.
Okay.
Continue on whatever you were talking about.
What were we saying about? Okay, so air fryers.
Air fryers. Energy efficient. Beautiful.
Yes. Valerie approved. But okay, so that's how I feel about my personal anxiety.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm not super anxious. I think the idea of having to think or consider emissions as a parameter in my decision making, actually, I find kind of, it's not fun, but okay, I'm terrible at making decisions. I'm not a good decision maker. I find like I get anxious about closing doors if I'm making decisions.
Okay.
And it's actually, for the most part, it doesn't make my life worse, but there are times where I'm really paralyzed with the decision. But having one more parameter helps a lot sometimes, because if I'm deciding, for example, to go to Canada, if I wasn't considering the climate, everything else would tell me that I could go to Canada. I have enough money. Normally I have enough time. I can get vacation days. I'm going to see family. But then the emissions thing, I do consider like that is a large part of my emissions. And so that often will sort of, if I take that into account, I'm like, okay, maybe I actually shouldn't go because that's a lot of emissions that I don't need to do. Or, deciding to go on a road trip or not, or like buying sausages instead of veggies. Like,
yes,
for me, like for my diet, it's super easy because I just don't buy meat. Easy. Like it's just not like an option for me, and which reduces a lot of the decision making that I have to do. So in some aspects, I actually find it okay. But I'm not anxious. And
okay.
I'm not.
I'm interested about what you said about going to Canada, because for me, flying to Colombia, which is comparable.
Yeah.
Yes, the emissions are a factor that make me think like, okay, I don't want to go there that often because of that.
Yeah.
But often the reason why I am like, I'll just go once a year is because the flight is so long.
It is long.
It is so long. It's like what?
But yours is probably double mine. Like I can get a direct flight to Canada. It's like 8.5 hours.
Okay, I have to take 2 flights, and the long one is like 11.
Yeah. Like there is like 8.5 hours is still long. But for example, if I'm flying, I don't know, to Prague, that's an hour.
Yeah, but
I can,
intercontinental flights are a pain in the ass.
They're a pain in the ass.
Watch 3 movies and you're not halfway there.
They are. Overseas flights are the worst. I hate them.
I hate them.
Though once time I was going because of work, and I flew economy plus. Okay. Changed my life. Not even business.
I want to have enough money to just say like, okay, I'll take first class.
Like it really changes your experience of flying. This is the same. I think maybe the same experience as I did with the air fryer. I thought air fryers were a scam, and then I got one. I was like, this is the best thing ever. Wow. I've never flown business class. I flew economy plus, and I was like, this changed my life. I can never fly Ryanair again. Like, there's sometimes money buys things that are nice.
Sometimes
it's a bit of a scam, but like sometimes
it is a game changer.
It's worth it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of money that's like, yeah, this is much nicer.
Yeah, right. So that in that sense, when I took that transatlantic flight and it was an economy plus, fine. I landed. I was well rested. I slept the whole flight. I got free orange juice. It was dope. Like. Most people would take free alcohol, but I don't like
I remember
drinking on flights.
Very first time I flew to Europe, it was from Panama to Frankfurt. We were with Lufthansa, and my friend and I, with like 2 guys, we drank so much German beer on the plane. It was amazing.
I cannot imagine getting drunk on a plane.
No, I was not hammered, but we had like beer with the dinner and beer with the breakfast. And we were not drunk, but we had like a little beers. Yeah, we're not even tipsy, but it's like, oh, German beer in a Lufthansa plane, and we're landing in Frankfurt for the very first time and landing to Europe. It was awesome.
Yeah, I could see that. It's an experience. Like flights can be an experience or an entertaining experience. I just had never considered them that way. I just think they're kind of annoying.
Yeah, I also think that the fact that what's the first time, right? The novelty, like first time in Europe.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
You don't drink German beer that often when you live in South America. So yes, of course, there's a novelty factor.
Yeah.
But now that you know what you're gonna go to, I mean, yeah, you wanna go, but you're like, I have to be in a tin can, as you said.
Yeah, flying is not fun. No one gets on a flight like, yay, I'm so excited.
Well, I kind of do because I'm a nerd for aerodynamics.
Okay, yeah, but you could, okay.
Yeah, I mean, but the problem is when you're on a transatlantic flight, it's like usually at night, so you don't see anything. You just hear noise.
And it's also 11 hours of that, like
But I have to do a parenthesis here. When you're flying and you see the condensation on the boundary layer of the wing, oh my God.
That's super nerdy.
I know, but I love it. That's my bread and butter. Like, I do that for a living, so
yeah, that's fair. Which I think planes as a technology are cool.
They're awesome.
I do find them very impressive. Like if you're standing next to a plane before you get on it, you're like, damn.
Yes.
That's like a cool piece of technology. Also, it's amazing that it can get off the ground. That thing is giant.
Wow, physics.
Physics. Yes. That's insane. But I have the same with like giant boats. I don't like boats that much. They kind of make me motion sick. But when I see a giant boat, I'm like how do it float?
How do you float?
Why is it that something that weighs, several tons,
several hundred tons, thousands tons,
why does it float? Yeah. I can barely float.
But you know why they float, right?
Yes, I do know why they float, because they're not that dense. But I'm not that dense either.
Okay, water displacements.
Yes.
Displacement, ladies and gentlemen. But
but also, have you ever seen a fat person float? It's crazy.
What? I haven't really thought about that.
I used to volunteer in high school at the pool to teach autistic kids how to swim, which was super fun. But there was this one guy, he was nonverbal. He didn't say anything, but he was the biggest man I've ever seen. He was so fat.
Wait. How old were you?
I was 14.
And this is a man or like someone you were teaching to?
Someone I was teaching.
Okay.
And he was probably around, he was a little bit older than me, but autistic. Okay. So like we had the same brain cells.
so he was a little older, but autistic. Therefore,
I had a little bit more authority in that scenario. But he was nonverbal. Okay, you weren't actually really teaching them how to swim. You were just swimming with them. Like it was like free time.
Okay, fair.
Supervising. But this guy was so fat. He was in the deep end. He didn't have to move. He just floated. It was crazy. I wanted to be him so bad.
Yeah.
Because fat floats. And I am not fat. And that is the only time ever that I wish that I really was.
You also notice a little bit of a change in the buoyancy depending on how much salt there is.
This is true.
Yes. And it's
that pool
amazing.
was not salty.
Yeah, of course. It's a pool.
But he floated anyway.
Okay.
Which is incredible. He just sat there floating. It was amazing.
So he didn't sit?
No.
Okay, he just floated.
He just floated.
What? How did we end up here?
Aerodynamics or something. Boats that float.
Aerodynamics of fat people floating.
Anyway, yeah, climate anxiety. Sometimes getting on a plane, I do think about how many emissions I'm emitting, and I'm like, eee. But it's not anxiety. It's just guilt.
Yeah.
Climate guilt, I think, is more... I'm in more the realm of climate guilt.
I agree. I agree. I think I have more climate guilt than anxiety.
But then also sometimes I see oil companies and I'm like, I have nothing to be guilty for. You fuckers are emitting so much more than I ever will.
Yeah.
And then I get pissed off. Have you read How to Blow Up a Pipeline?
No.
There's a book by a Swedish activist called How to Blow Up a Pipeline. It's not actually about how to blow up pipelines.
Who wrote it?
Andreas Malm.
Okay.
He's a Swedish, environmental activist. But it talks about how it's quite easy to, when you're fighting a war, the energy infrastructure is what goes first, because that's sort of that's how you fight your war. That's how you make things. So if you bomb an oil plant or a coal plant, that takes out power in a lot of that area, because they sort of energy is so centralized that it's quite effective. And you see it in the Russian war and everything. Yeah. But in theory, if you have decentralized power like wind turbines, it's a lot more difficult to get to. If you bomb a wind farm, there are 4 other wind farms supplying power, so it's less sort of a risk. Of course, you could bomb all 4 wind farms, but that was sort of the gist of it. But at that point, I was kind of at my not most radical, but I was like, oh, we could just bomb a bunch of pipelines and then everything will be fine. Or it just made me more like there are climate solutions that are kind of Band-Aid, like drinking out of paper straws. And then there are sort of systemic changes that need to be made that I think need to be not necessarily violent, but they need to be dramatic. Nothing's going to change unless you actually drastically change how a company operates or how we consume things or whatever. I just don't really know how, except blowing up coal plants.
I think that's hard to think about as a person. Maybe as a country, as a government, you could develop a strategy in the next couple of decades.
Yeah.
To what you're eating or what you're driving or where your energy comes from.
Yeah.
In a framework of a couple of decades, you could do stuff about it.
Yeah.
But for something more dramatic,
no,
or like
I mean, like
in a war situation, for example.
Yeah, and also one of the responses to climate change, one of like anxiety, and then there's guilt, and then there's something called climate terrorism, which is just people who have considered like if we blow up a bunch of pipelines, they don't have energy infrastructure and they can't burn coal anymore. And that's how you solve it. Or I think Greenpeace did this where they started attacking fishing boats. This is not a emissions thing, but more like a stop killing whales thing where they started like taking over certain boats to make it more. Or the guy who shot the CEO, for example.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't a climate thing, but
it's a good example of something drastic you can do. Yeah.
Exactly. Like if everyone shot one CEO, I feel like our emissions would go down. But yeah, there's different levels of responses, but I feel like the closer we get to a climate disaster, or the more they happen because they are happening, maybe not in this part of the world, but still, like Denmark had a drought warning and we have a lot of water.
Yeah.
So that's like fairly insane. If you have enough of those, people will be more and more intense about what or how they try and convince governments to do something. Maybe they can't do anything.
Okay.
But you as a voter or you as someone who is a citizen of a country can demonstrate that you are angry about certain things.
I agree.
You just like instead of just voting for people, you start taking things into your own hands.
Killing CEOs.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you noticed that every episode we end up suggesting to kill someone?
Yes. And normally it's people who are rich.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting. Or yeah, I've been trying to think about sort of what my role is in the climate crisis other than just what I could do for myself.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we talked about it last episode. There is your own carbon footprint that you can control. And one of mine is I should stop flying, which totally understand. But I think everyone has to think like that, or you have to do something that's a little bit outside yourself to have more of an impact, because you can reduce your emissions as much as possible. But then there's certain emissions that, or there's sort of the second scope emissions that are part of not just you, but your community that you then need to start addressing.
Yeah, in a way, for good or bad, the job that we have as a generation right now is to make this shit sustainable.
Yeah.
So that does not necessarily mean no emissions, but make it sustainable.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard.
It is hard.
Also, that's one of the reasons why I ended up working in wind energy. Because as an engineer, as a mechanical engineer, you can end up working in a billion things. But I was like, I like aerodynamics, and we need sustainable energy. Mm-hmm. Therefore, wind energy.
Yay.
Yeah.
Follow your dreams.
But yeah, that's one of the things. And that's one of the reasons why I'm like, I want to have an internal combustion car. Because I want to. Because it's a toy. And I'm fine with that. And my thought process to justify is like, in my work, I do things that are sustainable. I deserve a little fun.
Sometimes I do that too. I'm like, I work at climate change. I talk to companies every day about reducing their emissions, and I hope it has an impact. Therefore, I can use my air fryer. That air fryer was secondhand, by the way. So there was no actual real emissions caused by that air fryer. But, you know.
Well, yeah.
Or if you talk about it counting wise, the emissions were already accounted for before I bought it.
Yeah, also, it's just an air fryer for a single person that you're just using twice a day.
But still, I thought about it. I was like, if this air fryer was new, I think I'd feel more guilty about it.
I think very little people would consider that.
Yeah, but I would.
Yeah, I know.
And
that's good.
Yeah, it also doesn't cost much to be like, I just want a secondhand air fryer. In fact, the secondhand air fryers are cheaper.
Cheaper than?
A new one.
I mean, of course they are. They're secondhand.
So not only are you not buying something new, it's cheaper.
Yeah, true.
And you have an air fryer.
You're in love.
I love it so much. It has 12 different settings.
Oh my God. I'm so happy that you're happy with your gift. And I'm so happy that every time I'm going to go to your place to visit, I'm going to have baked potatoes.
Yes. I can make them in 10 minutes now.
Nice.
Yeah.
But you asked me about like future stuff,
Yeah.
like in terms of anxiety, not like present, but like your future.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to have kids? What do you think about the floodings that are going to happen in near the equator and all the countries in fauna and flora that are going to be lost? And what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think biodiversity or just caring about animals for me has been, when I read those articles, I'm like, oh, damn, that sucks. That is, if you lose a species, that's bad for the planet and bad for biodiversity. But I also find it really hard emotionally to connect with it. I think other people have an easier time. Like, there are people who actually really do care about biodiversity. And like, I work a lot with wind auction design. So like the criteria to win an auction, and the EU recently introduced non-price criteria in auctions. Actually, not recently, but they've reinforced it, where they consider your biodiversity impact, your resilience, supply chain stuff, your cybersecurity, And I've always been way more interested in the emissions, resilience, cybersecurity stuff than the biodiversity stuff. And I think I don't know what it is. I think, for example, if you ask Misha the same thing, she'd be way more interested in the biodiversity stuff. It's just, I guess, a preference. But yeah, biodiversity, I think I've only been interested in it in the sense that I think better diversity means a better ecosystem and better environment, which a healthy environment is also better for climate and, you know, reducing emissions.
Yeah.
You want things that can absorb CO2. You want, you want good plant material to come out of it. You want it to be able to grow things, But biodiversity in itself, I've never been too interested in, but maybe it's because I didn't really think about maybe I've never really thought about it as a concept. Obviously, Canada has a lot of biodiversity, so maybe that's why. Like, I think in Europe, you think of biodiversity because there is none. There's like grass, and that's kind of it. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just like a me thing. I don't know. Do you care? Like, when you think about climate change, is biodiversity like high up on your concerns?
Well, it also makes me really sad. I mean, especially because, I mean, for where I come from, I think Colombia is the first or second like, most biodiverse country in the world. And it's crazy the amount of birds and frogs that you find in the middle of the... so it would be very sad to see like an entire ecosystem just go down. If you see like, oh, there used to be a huge jungle here and now it's a desert.
Definitely.
It is very sad and makes you feel like, okay, humans are shit. But I also don't see much what you can do now. Like, okay, we're just going to try to be more sustainable, try to replace the things. And like when you're installing your infrastructure, do it in a conscious way.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I think the standards now in Europe for that are amazing.
Yeah.
But at some point, if the temperature is already going to go 1-2 degrees up, there are a lot of things that are going to be lost, and we already can do very little about it.
Yeah, maybe that's why I've had a hard time interacting with it, because I actually cannot see how I can do anything about when it's emissions. It's quite sort of direct. Like I stop consuming things, I have fewer emissions. I don't know how I do anything for biodiversity except plant wildflowers, which I do. I like planting wildflowers. But, you know, like that kind of issue is so big. Yeah, don't chop down trees. Like, you know, deforestation is bad. Plant your wildflowers. Make sure you save your bumblebees, But I find it really difficult to interact with it as an issue.
Yeah. I think the most you can do is like, okay, now we're heading to, and I'm just saying a number. I don't know actually the real number. Like, let's say we're heading to +2 degrees in 100 years. If we do nothing, it will be +3. And that will be worse.
Yeah, agreed.
So let's aim to keep it as low as possible. So, yeah, we will be fucked, but we will be less fucked.
Yeah, that's also my justification now of why I do this is we're still fucked, but we could be less fucked.
Yes. And think about that. By the time we're around 30 now. By the time we get higher in the adult hierarchy, all the boomers are going to be dead. So
true. We'll be the boomers.
Yeah, I think that's good. Let's take all the power from them.
Yeah, this is true. Goodbye, boomers.
Yeah, I hope you don't have a good time.
That's the thing. They're going to die before it gets like really bad.
That's what angers me. Like they're not going to see the consequences of their actions.
No. Yeah. But if you're born in 90 or if you were at the age that you could buy and do whatever you want in 1990, that would be you.
Yes, true.
You would have been a boomer.
I would have been part of the problem. And my life would have been awesome. Imagine myself getting to Europe and just buying a Porsche from the 80s, which is, by the way, some of the best Porsches ever. Oh, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not.
Yeah, now I live in the...
But it's also kind of cool that you live in a generation where you actually do have kind of a life purpose, and it's to not burn the world.
Like, as a generation, we have kind of a mission to do. And it's not like in the 40s, where it's like, okay, we're going to destroy the Nazis.
Yeah.
And now we're just going to make a bunch of babies and enjoy our life invading.
Woo, and buy whatever we want and have social security and have great things.
Yeah, I think we have it tougher, but, well.
We have a purpose.
Yes.
And that's to not fuck it up.
Yeah, don't fuck it up more.
Okay, in essence, if you're feeling guilty about it or anxious about it, it means you care, which is nice, because I think what I find more dangerous or like
the
upsetting is when people don't care at all.
Yes, the apathy of like, oh, I don't give a damn. Yeah. I don't even know. I don't even consider. I don't even think about it.
Yeah, you don't even think about how you could have an impact or change your ways.
Yeah, I think that's bad.
Which,
And that worries me when I see it on people our age or even younger.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, everything's so fucked that I don't care anymore. I think that's dangerous.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the media does a lot to create that kind of narrative or feeling. If you're someone who could only, especially if you're like 14 right now, like how are you supposed to get?
Yeah, you don't even know calculus now.
There's a lot of people our age who don't know calculus.
Oh my God, that makes me sad. I was talking to my sister. She's a psychologist. And she doesn't use math at all. And I'm like, how do you live your life?
There's actually not that many people that use calculus.
I know. Yeah, I agree. A lot of engineers don't use math in their daily life. But I don't know. I like it.
Because you're a nerd.
I'm a nerd. Yeah, I think what I did on my work the last couple of weeks was just like take a notebook and just derive some stuff that I found a bug in my code because of that.
Nerdy.
I know, but my code is better now. So I'm closer to finishing.
And when was the last time you got laid?
Shut up. That has nothing to do with it.
I don't know. They seem kind of related.
Correlation doesn't mean causation. Shut up. I might cut this out.
Okay. Nerd.
You're also a nerd. Shut up.
Yeah, but I don't do calculus in my spare time.
It's not my spare time. It's my work.
I don't do calculus at work either. That's nerdy. But anyway, imagine if you were 14 and all you saw was like headlines on Instagram or TikTok saying everything sucks and everyone who's older than you has ruined it for you. You would be kind of like, okay, cool, fuck it. I can't do anything, which sucks.
Yeah, but I also find it interesting to think, like, what if I'm 14 now? Like, well, maybe 14 not, but like you're in high school and you're thinking what to do with your future.
Yeah.
And you're asking yourself your question like, okay, do I take a gap year or not? And what do I want to study in universities? And then you see all like these promotional materials from universities, like from DTU or universities in the US or here in Europe, like very good universities. And they're all like, this is a great place where we do things that improve the world. And you're like, well, I'm a good student. I'm doing good in, I don't know, let's say science. I could go there and do something. So I think there is also this hopeful mentality of like, now it's more or less clearly defined that what we have to do is make this shit sustainable.
Yeah.
So if you can have that mentality from the get-go, from when you're, I don't know, 14, by the time you're 30, you will be an expert on something and you might be having a good impact.
True. I would find it interesting to see, like, I think when I was growing up and we were in school, they told you like follow your dreams. That was kind of like we had workshops on dream jobs and which I never had one. And I think
you never had
a dream job.
Okay.
I never had like I played the piano, so I was like maybe I could be a musician, but I didn't want to be a musician. That wasn't my dream. I think I went to sustainability or environmental. I think I wanted to be a marine biologist, and then I wanted to be environmental scientist or something. Was because I didn't actually have a passion, so I was like, okay, might as well do something that's good for the world.
Yeah.
Which I think now, if you have a passion and it's not doing something for the world, there's also that aspect of guilt. Like I have a lot of artist friends who are like, I actually can't engage with a lot of this, and I feel kind of bad, but I love doing art. One of my friends who is doing the Norway House with me.
Yeah.
She's an actress and like a fairly successful one, but she always is like, how do I engage with climate stuff? Or even like, I mean, now Europe's in this sort of defense mode. As an actress, I can't do shit about that. And I think that's not necessarily true, but I think there's a feeling of if I'm not in a sector that has sort of more, it's not even altruistic, but like more societal impact.
Yeah.
What am I doing with my life?
I agree.
Which I can't relate to because I've never been in that kind of situation. But I think the reason why I'm in this field is because I didn't actually have any like super, super strong desire to be anything else. Like I didn't want to be an artist and I didn't want to be, I don't know, a doctor or I don't know. Which some people I think like when they want to be doctors is like, because I want to help people. And I'm like, no, okay, you can help people and you can help people in any way. But there are a lot of jobs that are not necessarily for direct, like they're not considered jobs that are directly for societal benefit. I would argue that being an artist actually is, but like it's not portrayed as a sector that is.
Agreed.
And so then you have a lot of people who are 14 who are like, I want to be an artist, but if the world is burning, is it worth being an artist? Or like, why should I be an artist if I could do something else? Then I think they feel a bit stuck.
Well, I haven't thought about that. That's interesting.
But I am not one of those people.
Yeah, no, we for good or bad, we're already in a path.
Yeah, exactly.
We could change, but I don't want to change.
Yeah. But I think, yeah, it's something that previous generations haven't had to deal with. When I was growing up, if you wanted to be an artist, they're like, follow your dreams, be an artist.
Yes.
Not necessarily that was a good idea because not a lot of artists make a lot of money and you're going to have a hard time and da-da-da. Like there were risks associated with being a painter. But now it's on top of that, there's, am I going to contribute to society in a way that will help future generations? And maybe being a painter is not perceived as one of them. I'm sure you could, like, I would argue, I was talking to Oyvind and he was saying that the Norwegian defense strategy includes arts and culture because if you have a country that has strong culture, they're more likely to want to fight for that country.
I agree. I think that inspiration is huge in whatever you do. Like,
exactly.
I think that if you're teaching, like as a professor or as a teacher in high school or whatever, if you you inspire someone, that's a huge win.
Yeah.
Like that's out of the park winning.
Yeah.
You're making a huge impact on someone, and I think that's something that you should strive for.
Yeah.
If you can do that with art or I don't know, being an actor or something like that or music, that will be great for whatever country or culture you're portraying that for.
Which I think, the framing of that is important for some people, but I still think that there's a bit of a loss of just doing things because you want to do things. Like that kind of mentality can't exist anymore if you're in sort of a crisis scenario.
Yeah, but I think that a lot of things you can just do whatever you want, but just put it on service of the big picture.
Yeah.
For example, for me, when I was in mechanical engineering, I didn't really know what it was until I was like in second year.
Yeah.
And once I fell in love with fluid mechanics, it's like, okay, yeah, but if not fluid mechanics and aerodynamics, let's say vibrations. It's also super nice to talk about vibrations. And you can also do that in every kind of engineering application that anything that moves needs vibrations engineering.
True.
So, and everything that you don't want it to move also will have to deal with vibrations. So, yeah, there you go. It's like a little bit of that everywhere. And I mean, of course, mechanical engineering is super flexible, but you can also put your grain of salt or whatever in another field.
Yeah. But I think, that's the mentality that you and I have. And even like when you do science, like chemistry, there's applied and there's pure.
Yeah.
I never understood the people who did pure because I was like, wait, you just like molecules because you like molecules? And I get it because that is like a nerdy thing, but I never considered like, what is the point? Yeah. Like for me, I was like, if you're not applying it to something that's important, what are you doing? Which that's just been my mentality my whole life. I think there are people who literally just love molecules and all they want to do is figure out why this molecule vibrates this way and this one, da-da-da. But that, like, even the funding or, like, the ability to do that is reduced now because everything now needs to be applied in that sense.
Yeah, I agree. That's a bit of a luxury.
Yeah.
Like, for example, in time of war, like, you want your engineers to be working on something that is applied for that, not just wimbling about what would happen if, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's very nice and healthy for society that they allow themselves to have a group of people, even if it's a small group of people, like some mathematicians or physicists that just wonder about what happens if you have 26 dimensions, even though maybe that's not true or just losing funding.
Yeah.
But I think it's nice that we get some humans to explore that side of things.
Yeah. And I think it's great. And I think that should be in every, like, there should be artists who are allowed to be artists because they like colors.
For the sake of it, yeah.
But I think that role in society is reducing now.
Agree.
Because we have a climate crisis.
Yeah, a bit of an
there
emergency.
Could be a war and which kind of, like, that was in the 1990s when you can buy anything. You could be a theoretical physicist who talked about X for whatever, and you had your Porsche from the 80s, and that was your life, and it was a great life.
I don't know if a theoretical physicist from the 90s could afford a Porsche, but
maybe. I don't know. Anything was anything
it was
could happen
the 90s,
in the 90s,
right? It was crazy.
Yeah. But now I think that's changed. You can't really have that anymore.
Yeah. I think maybe I don't know what the next episode is gonna be, but something about thinking about like what the future implications for future generations would be. I think would be nice.
Yeah.
And we can also talk about why we don't want to have kids.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also fits perfectly because we're like over 1 hour.
Okay.
So
done.
I promise myself like about an hour is fine.
Good.
Okay. Also for me, future editing, you can cut now. Okay. Is there anything you want to say for the end?
Get an air fryer.
That's what you said last time, Valerie.
Did I?
Yes.
Don't get an air fryer.
Get an air fryer.
I just think they're pretty cool.
They're hot.
They are. They're very hot.
They're not hot. They're not cool. They're hot.
Spoken like a guy who hasn't gotten laid in a while.
Oh, shut up. Okay. For our listeners, thank you for listening. Mm-hmm. I hope you get laid.
Yes.
Have a good day.
Have a great day.
Okay. Bye.
I like how half of that was just talking about air fryers and the other half was climate
was
anxiety.
Actually serious. And now everyone knows that I haven't been laid in a while.